I guess we need an intro. Let's go.
Well, let's start, bro. Welcome to the Extrapreneur 360 podcast. Like, I'm so stoked to have you here.
Yes.
Before I fanboy out, it's just take a coin, put it in the box.
Will
The
do.
Charity is my purpose in it. You can put it in the box as well.
Awesome.
You can do two, bro.
So let's do
I did
it.
it too, and you can do it. Anyway, so yeah, welcome to the podcast, man. And like, for those who are just tuning in who don't know, if you don't know, okay, that's fine. But this is Carl, aka Donny Basco. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's funny. You said you were watching the Anya episode, and I fanboyed hard on Anya because I love Anya. I don't just love Anya's music and all that, but I love her as a human. She's such a lovely, genuine human, and all her circle, everybody around her acknowledges that and all that. And I feel the same way about you, bro. Like, not just from your skill set, but you're a good guy.
Ah, thanks. Thanks so much. And thanks for having me. Yeah, very happy to be here.
You know, I realized I always thought you were a good guy, and then when I asked you to donate a set to the DJ on the back of a bus, on the back of a truck set, and you're like, yeah, of course I'm. I was like, yeah, I'm not surprised. Like, that's the kind of guy you are. So I'm really stoked to have you. We've jawed a little bit together, quite a lot together actually. We've been around. We've been in Cape Town together. You've conclaved with us.
Yes. Let's go.
But yeah, Carl is, as far as I'm concerned, the top drum and bass DJ in South Africa. And I can say that because I've jawed around in Cape Town, I've jawed around in Durban, and you're one of the top DJs for a lot of reasons in my eyes, but I would like to get into that a little bit about, because I think a lot of questions about DJing from a lot of people. You know, I get a lot of people ask me, bro, do you DJ? Because I'm always around in the DJ space. And I'm like, I can DJ. I know how to.
Yes.
Technically, I can mix two songs together, but I don't DJ because I know enough to get myself into trouble, is like what I always say. So, you know, it's. I have a lot of questions about, and like speaking to the best in the country allows me to ask those questions and get those answers, which I take with me from Anya. I took a lot out of that conversation. Maybe not so much technically from the DJ space, because we end up talking about a lot of other stuff. But one thing that I always try to say in this podcast, or in the stuff that I do, is I like to talk to the people who are the best in the world and what they do, and that's why I wanted to have you on, because I really do think that highly of you. So firstly, just tell us about yourself. Like, you know, firstly, where you're from, what's your vibe. You said you're from the east.
That's right.
Not too far east, guys. Don't worry, not Vale. So relax, everybody. 1610.
Close enough, though.
1610 for life. But yeah, go for it, bro.
Hi, well, my name is Carl. How's everybody? Yeah, so I go by the name of Donny Basco. I've been DJing for close to 12 years now. I've played over 500 live gigs. I just really love music. So I do everything from drum and bass, which is, I would assume a lot of people would know me for. But I'm actually an open format DJ. I play any genre, any vibe. I also do like corporate vibes on the side. I've done weddings. So DJing is just what I do. I love events. I love being a part of the culture and nurturing the culture, and that's pretty much what I'm about. Amazing. I would say. Amazing. Yeah. And
do you do this full time? Do you have a job?
I do this full time. Yes. I mean, you know, there are quieter months. Let's not deny that. And during then, I'll do some other stuff. I'll do like some pet sitting and whatever the case may be. But for the most part, yes, this is what I do. And now is obviously our season, so it's going to be a busy month up until pretty much up until March, April. Yeah. So we're gonna be moving.
That's
so
So 500 gigs, man. It's a lot.
100%. I'm very pedantic in a sense that I really just track every single gig I've ever done, and I have like an Excel spreadsheet. I have like a notes app that has everything every single year, and I just keep track. When I first started, I think it was quite difficult, and I think that's why. And I just kept track just to remind myself, if I'm going to do this, I got to take it seriously and all of that. And I guess...
It just explained to me what you said, like in the beginning it was quite hard. What was quite hard? The DJing was quite hard, so you decided to journal it in a way.
Yeah, well, I guess, that's definitely a good aspect. But I think the hard aspect was that there weren't many opportunities. Like, we look at it nowadays, it's a completely different ballgame. Like, the industry has changed so much. The barrier of entry is very much lowered. There's a lot more events popping off and things like that. So when I first started, there wasn't many opportunities like that. So you got to work real hard. You got to obviously do the networking and stuff. And it's pretty much trial by fire, you know. It's like... Yeah, you got to meet everyone. You got to play the game, as I always say. And it's like you got to make those mistakes and do all of those things to actually get somewhere, you know.
And did that, I'm calling it journaling, but as you were saying, like you were keeping track on a spreadsheet. It's a powerful tool, that, by the way. It's a very intentional tool. From whatever you do in your life, whether you do
100%.
nothing with your life, keeping a journal is a really powerful thing. But I suppose that helped you, as you say, is like keep track. And I think what I want to jump on quickly here is you've seen the podcast and you've seen some of this podcast is about making yourself intentionally a better person, and like how to set your mindset right and how do you achieve your goals. That's what I like to get across.
For sure.
So I want to jump in quickly and just say that one of the things that I live my life by 4 values. One of those values is deliberateness. I don't say intention because deliberateness implies intention. So
Yes.
I say deliberateness. What you just described for me is deliberateness. You said, if I'm going to take this seriously, I'm going to deliberately keep a track of everything I do and learn from my mistakes I make. So that's
100%.
impacted you, eh?
Yes, 100%.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And has that been something that you continue to do to this day?
100%. Like, I always look back on each gig that I've ever had, and yeah, you got to learn from it. You got to see your mistakes. You got to also just look back at the last couple years and see how you've grown from that. Take a listen to every past mix that you've recorded. See even just the habits that you have, how you actually present yourself in public, how you present yourself after like a bad set, for example. When you have people coming up to you and speaking to you, you got to keep the face on. You can't like always just have like a negative face, whatever. So all of these little aspects, you got to like always go back, reflect, and then learn from it, I guess.
Dude, I mean, already I'm learning a lot more about you because as I said, we've told and we've known each other for a while, but having conversations, deep conversations like this shows me like the kind of person that you are is quite a deliberate person. Was there like growing up, was there a moment where you said, hey, I'm going to be a DJ?
So I would say yes, but it actually is a very funny story.
Yeah, cool.
I would say
this is why I'm here.
Yes.
I want to hear the story.
No, but the reality is I was a very different person, I think, in my 20s. And I started DJing very late. I only started DJing when I was 25, 26. But it was actually crazy. I used to actually go to a lot of clubs with my sister who used to run a PR agency, right? And she used to actually do PR for a couple of clubs. And from that, it was a lot of like hip hop clubs I was going to. I'd always go to these vibes. I love the culture. I love the vibes. And I mean, obviously I love drum and bass and stuff, but that I would say was my first love. Right. I'll be very honest. So I'd go to these places and here we go. Here's some DJ mixing. Like 30 seconds in, moving to the next track. You don't even get to like experience the song, and I'm just getting so frustrated. I'm like, dude, what is going on here? I'm gonna do the same thing. So eventually I was like, cool, this is my moment. I literally left work one day. I found myself in a music store, got a, Mix Track Pro, like a super low barrier entry vibes. I got this controller, started mixing, and I was like, I'm gonna be better than these dudes. I was not better than those dudes. Yeah, it
Lesson learned.
100%. And it took so long to actually like figure out and learn this stuff. But I was so dedicated, and I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to start doing this. And very funny. That is around the time like dubstep was already blowing up, and I was like, yo, this is actually a vibe. So I kind of just like put hip hop on the side for a bit, and I was like, let's start mixing like the dubstep tracks, some D&B tracks, and go from there. And yeah, I left my first mix out. I just put it out in the open, and it was great. But then after that, there was like, I think there was actually a festival competition. It was for a Ramfest, actually. Wow. Now that I think about it. So I entered that. I didn't really get anywhere. But funny enough, I ended up going to that festival. I wanted to say it was 2012. Could have been 2013. I'm not sure. But anyway, I went to that festival, and I actually met so many cool people, and it was such a vibe. And I think I even got to see Camo and Crooked that year. That was insane. I even saw them again now in Cape Town recently, and dude, best act I've ever seen. Oh my god. But okay, let's go back. So then after that, I met some people. That was cool. And then there was another brand called Yog Yog. They were really cool, also doing some dubstep, some D&B vibes, and they actually put out a DJ competition for another act that they were going to bring in a few months. So I was like, cool, let me enter this thing. And then they actually chose me. They got me on, and it was absolutely amazing. I met almost all of my industry friends on that first night of my DJ career, actually playing live to people for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that I actually didn't even know how to play on CDJs, so I rocked up with my little same Mix Track Pro and plunked it on top of the CDJs, which is almost like,
sacrilegious.
It's literally, but I did that, and I ended up going to like the finals. It was great, but I got like this opening set because I was like the wild card. I got this opening set, so I literally played my set to like, I think like 5 people. But yeah, it was such a vibe nonetheless. And I literally met almost so many people that night, or those 2 nights, that it literally just changed my life actually, which is crazy. So
I heard actually, I was talking to a DJ recently, was saying about the opening set. It's actually quite lekker because you get to experiment quite a lot. Nobody really hears.
100%.
Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. However, I will say, being that fresh in the game and not really even understanding the culture, I was just there for the vibes, to be honest. So my set was completely planned on what I wanted to bring, not with any consideration to the how the crowd would be or anything
It was about
like that.
you, not the crowd.
100%. And obviously, these are the things you learn with time. And I guess it was a bit different because it was like a competition night. But I mean, if it is a regular like gig or regular like club night, obviously, I pay so much attention to curation and how the night should go. You know, you start off very chilled, and I guess it is a lot more of a purist mindset. There are obviously other brands that might not consider that. But like for me, it's like you start off chilled and then you build the energy throughout the night to the point that when your headliner comes on, that is like the energy is heaving. That's the energy you got to bring. And then from there, you just keep it going.
So here you're talking from a party organizer perspective, and you do organize parties as well.
I do as well. Yes, correct.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so sure, I've had my fingers in a few pies, I'd say. The main event that I do now is Donny Basco and Friends. That's pretty much just like your regular. I do pop-ups, which is like maybe like a night at SK Smoke and Kills. Sorry, but then I also do like bigger events. Like actually, this weekend is my birthday event. This is called Broken Blends. So the actual blends part of it is what we do. Started off as birthday blends, but every year we try to do something a little bit different. So knocked off the birthday part, even though it is my birthday event, just call it blends. This year we teamed up with Broken Beats and call it Broken Beats. So now it's going to be a massive event at Sonnage, 2 stages, and that's the vibe. So that I do once a year for my birthday.
Amazing.
Yes.
That's sick, So I know Broken Beats. Isn't that Matt?
So Broken Beats, yes, that is Matt.
Broken
Yes,
Beats,
he runs Good Vibes Cartel, and through that, I partnered up with him, and we do that together. So yes, so that's then the next brand that I do is with Good Vibes Cartel. That's Matt and I, and then I do Sanctuary. That's another big brand that I have as well. So yes, that's partnered up with Radical, Miss Mears, and Toby One. So yeah,
Cool. No, that's dope, man. Yeah, that's cool. I suppose it's a natural progression. I want to go back to what you were saying now quickly about sort of how you were getting into the space and like in that competition you were in and the opening set, trying new things and all that.
Yes.
A lot of that, I think, and a lot of the time what I've discovered about DJing is a lot of it is trying new stuff and like figuring stuff out, and it can be quite uncomfortable. Discomfort's is another value of mine that I live by. I value very highly. I think it's an exceptional teacher, discomfort. How do you deal with that? Do you ever make yourself uncomfortable in those environments, and do you enjoy that kind of thing?
So it's actually a weird thing because yes, I actually do enjoy it. I will say that the discomfort is almost necessary for growth, I would say. And
Bro,
even
scientifically, you're right.
For sure. But even besides that, like even as much as experience that I'd ever have, whatever the case is, every gig that I do, I will still hit nerves every time. And that is discomfort. And you got to take that and utilize it. You know, when you step on stage and you're feeling those feelings and then you press play, you got to channel that and then give it back to the crowd, you know, and that's where the energy exchange comes from. That to me is very important. So yeah, you got to take the discomfort, use it to your ability, leverage it and go from there.
And I suppose you can do that now. You're quite experienced. You've been doing the 500 gigs, whatever. You're quite experienced, so you can probably play that on the fly. But in the early days, probably wasn't so easy. You probably were uncomfortable for an entire set. And then, like, have you crashed? Have you ever bombed completely?
I wouldn't say completely, but I will say there's been some close calls. And the reality is, sometimes you're going to go to a gig, and no matter what it says on your rider, no matter what a promoter would promise you, whatever the case may be, sometimes you're going to have gear that's less than ideal. You know, you're going to have a button, like a cue button that doesn't work. You're going to have a mixer that is glitching. So, you know, there's going to be like, you know, challenging elements. And that's the reality, is that you still got to go up and you still got to show up. Because regardless of the fact, there's a crowd that are paid money to see you. And if the promoter like messed up in any way or form, they're not the ones that are going to be blamed. Like at least not on the night, you know. So you got to show up regardless of how bad it is and actually do the work. Because like the crowd's not understanding what's going on. They just want to hear the good vibes, and you got to bring that to them. So
it reminds me of a story I heard about Teledelic. Someone he's also a very good guy.
Dude, legend. I know him. Yes.
Someone told me a story about him at, I think it could have been one of the festivals, and the sound system had kind of blown a little bit. He wasn't in a great state by any means. And they were like, and someone said to him, "Oh, bro, are you going to go on?" He said, "Dude, of course I'm going on."
Regardless.
Came, I don't give, you know, and that kind of passion, as far as I'm concerned, it's like, at dead honest truth, most of the people standing in front of those speakers don't even can't even tell the difference. like that. It's mostly DJs. It's
Yes.
like, bro, that bass bin is broken.
Yes.
I'll be like, yeah, bro, I don't care. George, shut up. You know, this tune, bro, such a good
Yeah,
song.
it's actually funny because I make this joke, and I'm obviously not the first person to say this, but it's like usually like the jury in the back is all like a line of DJs just looking and seeing.
So,
Yes.
dude, Carfax underneath as you walk into that there by the bar, between the bar and the dance floor.
Yes.
Stand there. We all see
100%.
it.
To be honest, it is actually, I know I joke about it, but it is such a great place to actually network.
Yes.
Because these are
Yes.
one of the only times you actually get to see like some of your friends. Like, because like you're not going to be meeting them for dinner or whatever the case may be. So this is the time.
Yeah.
You know, you stand back, you do it.
And sorry, carry on, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like on the same token, I always say never trust a DJ that doesn't dance. Like that is a big thing for me. Like whether it's actually behind the decks, I'm not saying like leave your headphones and just go crazy for an hour. But what I am saying is like you got to feel the music.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I guess it expresses itself in a different way because like some DJs are very moody and they literally will just look at the decks and play for an hour like their head down and they still having the best time of their life. So I can't judge that. But at the same time, it's like we often get so much energy from the crowd that we need to express it besides what we're doing with our hands. We got to like move around and like, you know, show that you're enjoying what you're doing. It's very important.
Yeah, I think
so,
so firstly, that story of standing at the back of the thing also is I've learned a lot. Just standing like, bro, what song is this? What genre is this? What is he playing?
Yeah.
This road is this, you know, like,
Yeah.
so you learn a lot there, but I also agree with you. I love that line about don't trust the DJ who doesn't dance. And I noticed that quite a lot amongst a lot of DJs, and often it's the DJs who aren't the biggest, and that's probably why they're not the biggest, because they're not fully in. They're right in their own heads, and they're maybe not letting themselves enjoy the party as much as they should, so they don't actually get to that stage.
100%.
But a lot of them don't. They rock up with their set and then they go home, kind of thing. It's disappointing sometimes. I mean, I think like guys like you are a great example of a great DJ, not just because of your ability behind the deck, but because you are on the other side of the dance floor, accessible,
For sure.
open. Hey, it's Donny. Hey, thank you for the set. Like you are there to talk to people.
100%.
Makes a huge difference. That's what we always say at Conclave. Like the O's are accessible. They stand there in front of they are at the party. They're there to jaw.
For sure.
Oh, they might be up next, but they're there to jaw. And once they finish, then they'll lose their minds a little bit. But it's a community. I think that's what builds. It doesn't build this feeling of the DJs are actually like unattainable and beyond you.
Yes.
We're not Greta and Skrillex. We are like just chill O's you can chill with and have a chill with.
100%. And that's as you mentioned, community for me is so important. Like I could easily be that person that will go to a gig, play and go home. But in the end of the day, that's basically chasing it as a paycheck.
Yeah.
And I respect DJs who do that. But in the end of the day, it's like I want to build a community, and we all have our role to play. We all have our role to play to build a culture, build a community, and make this the biggest, best scene ever.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
100%. No, I love it. And I think, and that's the beautiful thing, and particularly about Joburg. Well, Joburg scene, I still think Joburg scene is the hottest scene. I mean, compared to Cape Town and Durban, I've jawed there as well, and I just don't see the. I think it's coming, and like it's developing, it's bubbling under. But Josie's definitely got like a really up and coming scene. Well, not up and coming, but it's a.
If I may say something controversial.
Go ahead.
So, from my understanding, is there's the scene, right, and then there's like the big raves. Yeah. So what I see is that Joburg has an amazing scene in that there are so many grassroots events popping up all the time, and the culture is really like thick, dude. There's a lot of like people who show up to the smaller events and stuff like that, and then you got the big players. They throw like some of the best draws ever. Amazing. Yeah. In Cape Town, I think it is very similar, but what I see is that the grassroots level is a bit lacking. There's like not
in
that.
Cape Town.
In Cape Town, yes. Like in Cape Town, it looks like there's like a few parties brewing and like smaller to bigger names. They're doing the things, but there's not that much support on that level, from my understanding. But the big jewels, they do amazingly well. I would even argue that they might even do better than some of our jewels. But like the fact is, I don't see the smaller like to mid parties doing that well. And because the culture is like, I don't know what. Actually, I can't even comment on that. But yeah.
Speculate on it. Do you have an idea? Do you have a thought? Because I have thoughts and ideas.
I honestly, at this point, I actually cannot say, like, because I think like everyone puts their heart and soul into this, so I don't understand the reason why that might not be the case. But yeah, I just the people love drum and bass, but it seems like they're either voting with their wallet or they just don't have the money. But it seems like most of the big majority would only go out to like the very big events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and I mean as I say, my speculation around it, I think I very much noticed, and this isn't just a drum and bass thing. It's not a party thing. It's not an EDM thing. It's not a jaw thing. It's a lifestyle thing. I agree with you. I think Cape Town is a much more affluent city.
For sure.
Always have much bigger wallets there, but I think that also the standards are much higher. It's a very European city.
For sure.
And I think that's driven it to a point where if it's not the primo party, then I'm just not going to go support it kind of thing. And it's quite sad because I think that's where some of the best jewels I had first league. That's where some of the best DJ, like you came from, as you said, like winning a competition and playing these small little parties. And that's where you catch the O's.
100%.
Playing, up and coming. So it's quite sad that doesn't happen. I mean, if anyone's watching and they are from Cape Town and you've got an alternative opinion, let us know because it's
for sure. Please.
It's a frustration, I think, because when I do go down to Cape Town, I see a different. It's not just also the vibe of the like the people showing up and that sort of thing, but also the intensity with which they party on the drum and bass. I'm talking about drum and bass in particular, not techno. Techno, they're way more intense. I think but the drum and bass, I find like their concrete party. I went next door to Modular just for a couple of hours because I'd had enough neuro for one night. My ears were bleeding, but and I noticed like those are the techno hard, but the drum and bass I found to be quite not low energy, but not as in your face. Those weren't going as hard as they would. Like I feel like we do in Josie. So
100%. I think it's actually weird because a lot of people, even up to today, would probably say Cape Town's sound is more like rolling, minimal rollers, that kind of vibe. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but I guess a lot of people do, and I guess that kind of vibe breeds that, like, it's for the heads. It's always for the heads. But, like, the heads are great, but you also need, like, some bigger numbers for the bigger events.
To bring in
so for me, it's like the high energy melodic stuff is very catching. That engages, like, the crowd a lot more. Yeah. So, yeah. And that also, I would say, is a controversial opinion. Because a lot of people are going to be like, bruh.
Yes. No, I agree with you. And something that I've always said, it's quite funny because, look, I'm talking to you also coming from the Conclave perspective, because obviously I'm quite close with those guys and I'm involved in the party and all that stuff. Conclave is neuro drum and bass.
Yes, 100%.
Not my first choice of drum and bass.
For sure. It has its niche, you know, and that's the thing. Yeah. But I will say that they've done very well, and it's all community, right? You build it and they will come, right? As they say. So for me, it's like, I wouldn't have chosen Euro as, like, if I was throwing an event, I wouldn't be like, okay, cool, we're going to do this. Because in my understanding, there's not that many people that would, like, come to that kind of vibe. But the reality is they are, you just got to find them. And
like, you've got to make it homely for them.
Yes, 100%.
And as I said, like, Neuro for me is not my first choice by any stretch of the imagination. I take a lot of shit from Dylan, in particular.
For sure.
But for my first choice of drum and bass, which is is not necessarily the liquid on the dance floor, but the jump up and the dance floor drum. I love the melodic stuff, sub-focus dimension. I love that stuff, right?
100%.
And my argument for why I love it, I mean, aside from the fact that I love it and I run to it and it's good to run to, is that it's accessible drum and bass. It's drum and bass that makes it easy for a casual, like you said, not the heads, the casuals, to turn around and go, brilliant, this is drum and bass. This is cool. And then 2 or 3 hours later, they're standing there in front of Repulse or Canna Chris, going, I'm still on the drum and bass, but like things have picked up a little bit, but I'm still having a good time. But like it's that entry level, and particularly for the girls, I find, because drum and bass can be quite hard and energetic and heavy. For the sort of fan, like the more delicate girls who are into their techno, into their Afro house, into their house music. It's so accessible, that music, and it allows them to come in and go, hey, you're welcome here as well. We're going to pick it up in a few hours, but stick around. You're going to have a good time. So I think it's so important what you say.
100%. And I think you even used Conclave as an example. And I think even they, like, when they did the last bookings, they were very much like, we still expect you to play your sound. And I think that's the most important thing, is that regardless of what your brand is, I'm not saying it has to be accessible, but it has to be in such a way that there has to be something for everyone, and that's the thing, is like, you can't leave the heads like out of the
Yeah,
equation,
yeah, yeah.
because they're the people that always show up. They're the people that love the culture and
diehards,
like
100%.
exactly. So if you're going to be playing Dimension all night, then that might alienate them. So
Yeah.
you got to find a way that they still are catered for, plus the like people like that are coming in for the first time are catered for, plus the people that love the really hard stuff. You got to give them something. And like, and sure enough, just in terms of progression, it might be they're only going to get the last set of the night, but
Yes.
they get something, and that's the best time of the night anyway.
And
Is like
I think you've also
for
hit
them.
on quite well. You've hit on one of the problems with drum and bass is that there are so many different genres and so many different sounds. Techno, I know this isn't a derogatory thing. I don't think for techno, but it's pretty much whether it's heavy or soft, it's more or less the same doof 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 kind of thing. It does change and all that, but you don't have to sit there and go, "What is this rollers?" Is it like, you don't have to figure it out, and or like feel it differently.
Yes.
It's pretty much you can just arrive and you'll enjoy yourself because it's techno.
To be fair, though, I'm sure people that really love techno will obviously
always gonna be
they're always going to have their different subgenres driving techno,
exactly, but
and this party caters towards that vibe. And
I'm trying to be controversial and get us watching.
for sure.
Dude, tell me, I wanted to ask your opinion on something else. I'm sure she won't mind me using it as the example, but I find this happens quite a lot with a lot of DJs. We did the DJ on the back of a truck.
Yes.
And it was dope. You, Taryn, and Rar played.
Yes.
And Taryn got off the back of the truck, and she was so hard on herself. Like she really didn't feel like she did an amazing job.
Yes.
And I didn't agree.
For sure. And neither did I.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think Taryn always does a great job, but I've
Always
become a
sends
bit of a fanboy of Taryn's as well. But I use her as the example because I've noticed that happens not just with Taryn, but with a lot of DJs. They are super hard on themselves.
Yes.
And they and I appreciate the hell out of it because I know that that's what makes you get better at what you do. Because being hard on yourself, say that wasn't perfect, bro. You got to go home and practice. I appreciate that it's important. But why do you think that is? The reality, the reason I ask it is as a fan, as a dancer, not a DJ.
Yeah.
We don't even know the difference most of the time.
I hear you.
We only know when the DJs killed it.
Yes.
They either do great or they do phenomenal.
Yes.
That's our opinion.
100%.
But the DJs are often quite hard on themselves. Taryn was quite hard on herself, and I was like, T, what are you talking about? Like, I love you for doing this. This was amazing.
For sure.
Why do you think that is?
So for me, it's like I always say that you will always be your own harshest critic, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing is we put our heart and our soul into what we do. So we have an idea of what we want to do, right? And some DJs will like prep a whole set, for example. Some might just prep like their cue points and stuff like that, whatever the case may be. But we go somewhere with a game plan.
Yeah.
And then you go there and maybe then, as I said, like the gear, like there's something that messes up or the settings are wrong. And like, in that moment, there's not much you can do to fix it, right? So you just gotta the show must go on.
Right.
And I guess that probably is basically what happened.
So it's not something in the sound, it's something in the... And I think that's kind of what she alluded to, actually, if I recall now. She did say, like, listen, and this is why I was also quite kind of like, T, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You were on the back of a truck that was moving at the time.
Yes.
In the blazing sun. Like, it was not an optimal environment to be mixing.
100%.
If you screwed up, bro, nobody's going to hold you accountable for that. Like, well... So I guess that makes sense. It's not always about the sound necessarily.
Yes. Yeah.
That's quite interesting, yeah. I've always wondered like why DJs are so hard on themselves and the rest of us are just like, oh, do the man. Like, thanks, bro.
But yeah, that's what I was saying earlier though, is like you are going to have those instances and you can confide in the people close to you, but you also like when the general public starts seeing you obviously then got to put on the face and you'll be like, thank you for like the wishes or whatever the case may be, and then move forward from there. Yes, but you will always be hard on yourself. Even if you have a great set, you'll still walk and be like, that one transition, I could have done that so much better.
Well, I think that mentality is what makes people the best in the world, is because they are always pushing and striving to be better, which is
100%.
never happy.
Yes, and it's good. Like on some level, you can feel like you did a great set, but yes, you can't ever feel like there's nowhere else that you can grow, because that's insane. Like there's levels to everything, and if you're on this level, it just means that there's another one that you need to attain to. So yeah.
You spoke a little bit about like preparing sets and whatnot, and I don't think a lot of people know what that actually entails and involves. Obviously, I think we all know that DJs prepare their sets. And
Yes.
you often hear that you run into someone at a fair and they'll be like, "Oh, bro, I'm just off to finish my set."
Yes.
You're like, "Bro, you're playing tomorrow." Like, and we don't actually know what the process is.
Yes.
I bring it up because I mean, obviously, there's preparation in sets and there's like planning and all that. And I was actually in preparation for this conversation, I was listening to some other interviews with DJs and just to get some inspiration around, this conversation. And one of the DJs I was speaking to was, he was quite critical, or not speaking to, sorry, I was listening to, he was quite critical of that concept of preparing your set and knowing cue by cue what you're doing.
100%.
He felt like it's more about, you've got to try, you got to be there, you got to try what you got to do.
Yes.
And if it's not working, you got to be ready and versatile and flexible enough to kind of adjust.
100%. And that's what we call reading the room, right? Yeah. I would say that's more common in like more chilled environments or more open format environments, rather, I would say. But like, it just depends, right? Because if you want me to break down the whole experience, I'll tell you. Okay, so let's say if I'm preparing for a set, the first step we do is we basically crate dig. That's what we would call it, right? Digging in crates. It's back in the vinyl days, right? So, but that's essentially the vibe. So whether you're listening on your Apple Music, your Spotify, whatever you're listening to, sometimes you're getting inspiration from that. Sometimes you in the car and you're listening to something, whatever the case may be. So now this is your preparation phase. You start getting all the tunes that you'd like to get. So everyone has that phase differently. Some people use SoundCloud, whatever, doesn't matter. Cool. So now you got your potential list of tunes. Then you're going to buy the tunes. So then you're like, okay, cool. Maybe I want to get this one. Cool. So you can get a crate, boom. And then you can buy that. From there, you import it into your DJ software. Most of us will use something called Rekordbox because we're using Pioneer gear. And then let's say you now have 20 new tunes that you bought or whatever the case may be. Then you put that into like a larger playlist or however you prep your tunes. And then from there, you can start working around. Some DJs like to, as you said, prepare cue by cue. Some like just to have like a whole playlist. Just depends on the DJ. But for the most part, you get your music, then you can load your track, you can play around and see, okay, I want to use 32 bars from the drop, I want to put a cue. 16 bars from the drop, I want to put a cue, whatever the case may be. So you plan it on how you want to mix. Now in the old days, like obviously with vinyl and whatever, if you want to do more chill sets, you don't really have to use cue points. You can just like somehow like do that and do whatever. But if you are playing more of a later set or like you just need to like mix really quickly, it's really advantageous to have like many cue points so that you can literally just mix in and out quick. Now that's how I mix, but that's what I would mix if I'm doing like more of a headliner show or like a later slot. If I'm doing like a very chilled or liquid set, I wouldn't really even bother with like too many playlists.
You got the time to...
Yeah, exactly. Because then you can just let it flow, let it do the things. But if I want to mix quick, I don't have the luxury of waiting. I gotta like be on the ball. And another thing that I would say with drum and bass specifically, and I won't say it specifically, but a lot of the time we mix and blend, and we call like a blend that has two tracks over each other, we call that a double, right? So you're mixing basically the like both drops at the same time. Pretty much that's basically what you're doing. So you're dropping the bass of one and then you're EQing it a bit and whatever the case may be. But essentially two tracks are literally going to be playing at the same time. And not just as a mixing in, like you're going to let it run for at least like 10, 15 seconds, maybe even longer. So that's why it's very important to have those cues ready so that you know it's hitting on the one, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 on each side. Boom, sorted. Let's go.
Jeez, okay. Technical. I'm actually glad you went into that because it's not a question I had. But I'm glad you did because it's really given some insight into the process.
Yes.
Super technical stuff.
Yes,
right?
I always say, right, it actually is very easy to DJ. And anyone can learn how to DJ.
That's why I can DJ.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying.
Very well.
But that's what I'm saying is I would honestly say that you could learn the basics of DJing in a day, 100%. But there's a difference between being able to mix two tracks together and being able to mix for an hour or longer. And that's the thing.
And so that actually, sorry, I cut your word because that actually brings up a question that I did have. In your opinion, what makes a great DJ? Is it technical ability, track selection, crowd reading the room, crowd awareness?
Yes.
I'm sure it's a combination.
100%.
Like, what is your...
For me, first and foremost is, firstly, your track selection is, for me, the most important. It's primo. And then secondly, from there is the crowd, reading the crowd. Because if you are playing a set and you can see that it's not going the way you want to, then you got to move. You got to...
Explain that. What you looking down and you're going, it's not going the way I want to. What does that look like?
Well, it looks like...
Because, sorry, I want to say this. Because we as the crowd, as the dancers, are responsible for that. We are 100%. Behaving in a way that you're going, what are we doing?
Okay, so essentially...
What can we do better?
Okay, so for example, let's say I go to an event and like maybe it's more like heads orientated, for example. They like their rollers and stuff. And I didn't know that going in, because when I got booked, kind of like the brief was like, okay, just do your usual vibes, or they didn't even tell me. They just assumed. Cool. So then I get there, and like this crowd is expecting like rollers. And here, as we mentioned, Dimension, for example, here's me rocking up. I'm playing like Dimension, sub focus. I'm bringing all the high energy stuff, but that's not the crowd for it. So then you'll start seeing like a lot of people like being disinterested on the dance floor. So they'll kind of stay, they're swaying a bit. That's like the first step. Then you start see that it starts thinning out. So those are like the tried and tested things. So then at that point, you got to have like your emergency folder. You got to start bringing tunes in and seeing if they can
Emergency
like, yes,
folder,
yeah, pretty much. So then you got to see like if people
Yeah.
are going to come back to the dance floor or not. So yeah, that's pretty much the
Sorry,
vibe.
so I cut you. So you said
Yes.
track selection, crowd awareness.
Yes, but then, so that to me is the most important like aspect of like a DJ to begin with. But then, in order to mesh all of that together, that's where like the finesse and the technical ability comes in. Because I always say this, and I might offend people by saying this, but like the reality is, if you are the greatest DJ in the world, but you are very boring or just not bringing the right vibe, like ultimately people are coming to the event to have a good time, to like lose their shit, or whatever the case you want to call it. Sometimes like a highly skilled technical DJ
Yeah.
that's not bringing that vibe, in like the crowd's opinion, is a bad DJ, right? So it's, for me, it's finding the balance, like being able to read the room, being able to get the greatest track selection, but being technical enough that you can mash that all together and make it a great vibe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why. Like I will always trump track selection over technical ability, but the fusion of both is what makes a great DJ.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, as I say, as a crowd participant, what I would say is, I would agree with that, and this is why. This is what I'm saying. This is going back to that question about like why DJs so hard on themselves.
Yes.
I would say that I would agree with you, because at the end of a set, Donny played, did you hear the tune? And then he played that other tune.
Yeah.
That's all we actually remember.
sure.
What we don't realize or remember, with the O's standing at the back, only the jury, what do you call them? The DJ jury.
For sure.
Only they know. Donny
Yes.
screwed that up.
Yeah, that transition was trash.
Shit. And the rest of us are like, dude, that tune was so, like, because we actually casuals when it comes to DJing.
Yeah.
So they make that tracks. That makes
100%. I will always say that a crowd is very forgiving. Like if you get on stage and you make like one bad transition or maybe two, whatever the case may be, if you recover well enough within a minute, everything's fine. Within 10 minutes, the crowd, 5 minutes even, the crowd's already forgotten that. They moved on to the next vibe. But on the other side of the coin, I will say that if you are literally train wrecking, is a term we use, when you're trying to bring two tunes together and it's literally just not working, and then you kind of just have to force like one out or whatever the case may be. If you do that continuously and you're creating a very jarring environment, then people will start obviously. That's not okay. But I mean, you do one or two bad like transitions, like the crowd's forgiving enough, and it's a vibe. I mean, as we said earlier, you are the person that's going to be feeling that.
Right,
yes,
exactly.
and maybe the jury in the back, but for the most part, everyone else, it's going to be a good time.
And I've had some amazing experiences with some DJs.
Yeah.
Standing with them, and I'll give an example of one. Was at the Conflict Festival at the beginning of this year. I can't remember. And we were standing, it was late at night, it was one of the later sets. I won't say who was playing.
Yeah.
But we were standing far away. We were by the tents.
Yes.
I was with Ken and Chris. And I was just like, we were talking shit, I can't remember what was going on. We were just chilling. And he was like on his haunches, chilling against the wall, listening to me, barely following the conversation, whatever. And just out of the blue, he went, that was a mistake, eh? I'm like, what are you talking about?
What do you mean? Yeah.
He goes, no, the DJ just screwed up. And Stru's nuts, like 5 seconds later, you just hear, woo!
Yeah.
And then he's like,
Brings it back.
again. And I was like, dude, how did you hear that?
Yeah.
And like an ear tune like that, like that's a DJ listening to something. Like he was 100 meters away.
Yeah.
We couldn't hear it clearly, but he was always like, it was unbelievable.
Yes.
That was an unbelievable experience.
100%.
It really taught me a lot about being a great technician.
For sure. And I think that's the problem, is it's like it is a gift, but it's also a curse.
Yeah.
Because it's very hard to switch off.
Yeah.
Like as a DJ, no matter where I'm going, like firstly, I always say, before I'm a DJ, I'm a person that loves music.
Yeah.
I will always say that. But the reality is, that might not actually be true. Because, you're going to hear a bad transition, you're going to like, and you will remember that. And like, it doesn't, as long as it doesn't take you out of the moment, that's fine. So I
love what you just actually shared in terms of it's a curse. Because I do kind of feel sorry for the DJs sometimes because they're unable to just let it go and enjoy themselves. They constantly.
But true. But on the same, like the other side of the token, there is I mentioned that I saw Camo and Crooked.
Yes.
And like they were the greatest act I've ever seen in my life, like recently. And dude, when you see someone doing what you do, but on a level that you can't even fathom and do it to perfection, that level of magic that you could experience as a raver is almost like 100-fold, even more, because you know what they're doing. And it's just like,
oh, so there's the blessing.
That's the blessing.
Because I also
Yes.
stand, as much as I feel sorry for the DJs, I also stand next to a lot of DJs on the dance floor. This guy's really like he's able to tell what's going on there.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's also like hearing a tasty double for the first time that one of your friends are playing, or one of the any DJ that's playing. It's just like it awakens something in you almost, because like the two tracks. Like this is something else. How it's like happening, and it just makes it that much better.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where the magic never dies. Yeah. It's just harder to find, I would say.
Yeah. But when you do see, so it's interesting what you said about watching Camo and Crooked, and when you see somebody do something that you do, but on another level. I'm sure you've checked some of my 5:30 a.m. wake up.
Yes.
That's the philosophy behind it.
Yes.
It's about being in front of people and saying, like, I'm not saying that I'm a better skipper, runner, poi player, whatever I do in the morning, push-up doer, whatever you want to call it in the morning, but I'm doing it.
Yes.
And you're not. Get out of bed and do it. Like when we see people doing things that we know we should be doing or can do or want to do, we're more likely. That's why I do those. I go live for 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it is. I'm like, come on, I'm going for a run. Let's go. And it's like, it's called social proof.
Yes.
It's learning from other people and saying, hey, I can see somebody else doing it, therefore it's more likely that I will do it as well.
100%.
Such an important psychological thing.
Agreed.
That's really, really cool. I wanted to talk. Obviously before we started, I said to you, "Hey, would you be comfortable talking about the drug scene and whatnot?" And you said, "Yeah, you've got no issue with that." And I think it's really important. I've had this conversation with a lot of people on the podcast because it's impossible to ignore it.
Yes.
And it's a big part of what we do in the community in that we're in. I think let's start broadly and just ask you, like, what is your feel about the drug scene? Because as we were talking off camera, I was like. I was thinking, no, don't tell me now. Tell me after.
For sure.
Let's talk on the podcast. What is your opinion as things are at the moment? You actually did say something to me that I want you to repeat. If you don't, I'll make sure that you do repeat.
Done. So for me, it's like, it's hard to I don't know. My view is that drugs are going to be there. And we have to ensure that the ravers are as safe as possible. And I think we, unfortunately, in a country where we don't actually have like the test kits and stuff like that, which I feel are so important. A lot of people argue that encourages the use of drugs and stuff. But as I said, the reality is it's going to be there anyway. So we got to keep people as safe as possible. So for me, it's like, if you are going to partake, do your research, know where you're getting your stuff from, know the dosage. All of these things are very important. And even besides all of that, always make sure you have someone that is sober enough to at least make sure that if anything happens, you have someone there. Yeah. So that's the thing. I do believe our community itself is very much on that vibe. But I just feel like a lot of people view it as enhancing the vibes and stuff like that. And I will never fall to judge anyone for that. But for me, I just don't believe it's necessary. But if you are going to do it, just do it in those reasons, I would say.
What you said to me off camera, and I said, like, because you probably obviously didn't remember, but you said that you're noticing people doing it younger and they do it harder.
And that is such a problem for me because, a lot of people go to the rave to escape. And that's amazing because we have some really hectic lives in general. But the thing is, you're going there, you're meeting like these dealers, you're getting like these really hard stuff. You're like 18, 19 years old, freshly left school, might even still be in matric, to be honest. Who even knows? But it's like you're getting exposed to this part of the culture, which to me is a bit of more of an uglier side, And it's very problematic because you're supposed to be there for the music or whatever reason you're going to be there, but now you're indulging in other things. And it just takes away from the actual experience, the wholesomeness of raving, of being your true authentic self and all of these things. So, I think, I don't know how do we stop that, but for me, it's like, showing people that there is a community outside of that. And I think, I don't know, how do we build from that?
So it takes me, as you were talking, I'm glad we actually, I love this conversation because the more we talk about it, the safer people will be. That's how I feel. I think there are certain drugs that this is my opinion, I think there are certain drugs that we shouldn't be doing whatsoever.
100%.
Ever.
Yes.
In any circumstances. But we're going to do them. Like
Yes.
people are going to do them. I think there are certain drugs that we should be doing, and I think are exceptionally healthy for us.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I think what's that's why I love having this conversation, because whoever catches this, whoever watches it, whoever picks it up, learns something good or bad. They realize either bad, I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, and I should stop doing that drug.
Yes.
And you and I know, and I think a lot of the people who watch this know which drugs I'm talking about.
Yes, 100%.
And in terms of you shouldn't be doing, and the drugs that you should be doing, you know what I'm talking about, because they are enhancers, and they are mentally. They make us stronger and better and help us see our problems differently.
Yes.
But it takes me back, as you were talking to my conversation with Anya, who is very involved in the safety element of festivals. Her and her husband, boyfriend, I don't know, actually, I've never really thought about the relationship, but they're very involved, like they, with radios on their hip, and they're doing their thing.
Yes.
And she was saying, and I'm going to say the same thing here, because I said it on that podcast and I say it on this one as well. Ask for help.
Yes.
Like you're not in this alone, and like more and more, I'll insert myself into an environment where we're in a situation where I see lighties in particular who are not doing good.
Yes.
And there's a lot of embarrassment and shame when you get yourself into that situation. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed.
Yes.
You should know better, and I'm going to cuck you out tomorrow.
100%.
But right now, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
Because we know what we're doing. We've been doing this for many years.
Yeah.
And we will get you to a place that you can come down, or your friend, or wherever you're going through. We'll figure it out. Don't worry.
100%.
So don't, stop trying to be clever. Firstly, as you said, I love what you said about know your doses, figure it out, get to a place where you know you're safe.
Yes.
But ask for help.
Yes.
And see the people, and ask before you take the drugs. Who can just eye out. Make sure you've got a sober mate. And if you don't have a sober mate, walk up to an older person, one of the older buddies at the party.
100%.
And just bro, you've been here a while, haven't you? Yeah, cool. I've seen you around as well. Can I just let you know what I'm taking? Just so that in case I get, for sure.
100%. And I think you mentioned this, especially as an older person. We've been there, we've done that. We literally, there's no judgment. You can come to any older person and just tell them,
100%.
listen, I need help or whatever.
It will only work out better for you.
100%.
It will never go worse. Nobody's going to pull the drugs out of your hand and say, right, where's the cops?
Yes.
Nobody's going to say to you, no, go home, you're too young. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
It can only work out well.
Yes.
So start doing it.
Yes.
I
But on top of that, I also do believe it is our responsibility, for any raver, to actually, as a community thing, always be looking out. And if you see someone that's not okay, before even letting them ask for help, go to them, say, hey, are you okay? Can I get you water? Whatever the case may be. That is very important. We all have to be on that kind of vibe. It's not just ourselves that are enjoying the vibes.
So it's interesting you say that, because one of the things I learned when I lived in America, I was in LA for 2 years, and that is one of the key learnings I got from America. Is the opposite of that. They look out for themselves. On the dance floor, in the shopping centers, Americans are very self-centered, because unfortunately that's the culture that they've developed.
For sure. It's
a
unfortunate.
hard culture. It's an expensive culture, so they've got to look out for themselves. South Africans are the opposite of that. We look out for each other.
Yes,
We've got
100%.
no issue saying, dude, you need some help. What do you need? Let's do it.
I would honestly say, and this is obviously far removed from music in general, but individualism or hyper-individualism is probably the cause of many of the problems we have in this world today. So,
Dude, that's some philosophical stuff there. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That was more than just a pretty face. Right?
Done.
Dude, anything else you want to share? I mean, I'd love to talk more with you, and I try to keep the podcast under an hour if I can, because it's the truth is you've creamed through my questions, you've filled my head up with information. I've got a lot to digest here, and you've actually added a lot more than I even would have thought to talk. But is there anything you want to share? Anything else that you'd like to get across?
I think just to reiterate the essence of community and how important it is, and especially as not only as DJs but as event promoters, I think the essence of being a part of the grassroots is so important. Going to events that are not your own, meeting the people, speaking to the ravers, whether you're doing surveys or even just on the ground. And being on the ground to me is so important. I need to know who's up and coming, and I can't just see social media, you know. I can't just be looking at who's popping off at the moment. I need to actually go to these smaller events and give people opportunities. A lot of people don't have these opportunities. So whether it's like a radio thing that I do every second Thursday, like I'll try to get new people on all the time, try to get different people on all the time. Like sometimes I'm going to go to like Cape Town DJs, maybe even a Durban DJ, whatever the case may be. You know, we're doing takeovers. We're trying to mesh with all the brands and like try to do the things. So yeah, I just feel that side of the coin is important, because sometimes DJs feel like very jaded and they feel like they're not getting these opportunities, and only the same 5 DJs are being booked every weekend. The reality is we all have our parts to play, but as promoters we could always do a little more. And yeah, that's basically what I want to say.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
Is there anything you need from the community?
I just think, yeah, the community just must show up. They must go to the events, like, and just keep building the culture. That's the most important thing. You can't just go to like international events. You gotta like go to like of the
Regular
Friday events.
Saturdays,
Go to like, yeah, even if it's, you know, if it's a Thursday night thing and your friend's playing for the first time, you could very easily give him an excuse and be like, nah, dude, you know, it's a school night or whatever. But sometimes showing up means that little bit of uncomfortable vibes. That's the thing. Yeah. So for me, it's all about showing up where you can. Amazing. And that's from ravers to promoters. We can all do that.
I love to end this podcast with a bit of homework for people so that people can do something better. I want to just say your homework for this one is keep an eye out at your next festival party and look for somebody to help if they need the help. Don't be ashamed or afraid to ask if somebody needs help.
Yes.
Because we are often not able to ask. Not all of us are comfortable asking for help. It's crazy to me. I also help all the time.
Yes.
I'm basically a baby bird falling out of the nest most of the time. I'm like, dude, help me. Who, not how.
Yes.
But that's your homework. Keep an eye out. Make sure that you're looking after each other on the dance floor. I love you, bro. Thank you for doing this. Honestly, blew my mind.
Love you too. Thank you for having me. Yes. Big vibes.